Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome to Cover Crimson as we get one day closer to Alabama and Florida State. That's coming up on Saturday. We're going to get into that. Bama with some injuries. So does Florida State, though. They've got some players that are out as well. The running backs, who's stepping up without Jam Miller for this game? The weather, is that a concern? I know Jimmy and Clint talked about that yesterday. We'll get into that today as well. All that right here on the show, brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Azaleas, the Oaks, two amazing golf courses at Dancing Rabbit. It's the Augusta you can play. All right, let's get this thing going. All right, there he is, Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. It's Thursday. That means we got Friday and then Saturday. Today's like the big show day, right? Because tomorrow's the tailgate show for me. Not a whole lot goes on Friday. So today, show-wise, this is the big day. And there is a lot going on with this game. Bama's got some of their key players out. I'd say you talk about three guys you don't want to lose. Adding Tim Keenan to this mix, not good for Alabama.
Yeah, it's concerning. And, I wouldn't say I've downplayed, or at least not intentionally downplayed the injuries to Jam Miller and Jaden Roberts. But, I think Alabama's going to get by fine at running back. I think Geno Vandemark at right guard is going to be a good player. I think he's going to be kind of what Alabama needs if you're not going to have Jaden Roberts available. He's a serviceable player for sure. He does some good things. The communication's fantastic. But when it comes to Tim Keenan, one thing we said going into this season is probably the two most important players as far as the defense, because of the position that they play and because of the potential issues as far as the depth, was Tim Keenan and James Smith. James Smith obviously probably being the most important, because I think Jeremiah Beeman stepping up into a starting every down role, I think he'll be good. Edric Hill is a little bit more undersized. If he was asked to be a true 3-down starter right now, I still don't know if he's ready for that. So I would have probably been more concerned if it was James Smith. But if the weather lends itself to rain, like you're dealing with issues with, and I think it's going to come and go. I've seen some people say, oh, it's going to happen in the morning and it's going to happen, in the evening or at night, but not during the game. I don't know if that's true. I mean, last update I heard is, from James Spann, and maybe he gave another update, but was, you could expect probably some spotty showers throughout the game. If that ends up happening, then there could be periods of time where you have to lean a little bit more on the run. And it's like I was talking about with Jimmy yesterday, Mick. And now this Tim Keenan injury kind of just fuels this a little bit more. But kind of my point to him was, when you talk about what Florida State wants to do offensively, they want to run the football primarily. I would say that Alabama under Kalen, DeBoer, and Ryan Grubb, if you talk about primarily, they want a balance of both. But, they're more known for throwing the football. So if it rains, that kind of automatically plays a little bit more into Florida State's favor based off of what they want to do. Not saying they're a better rushing team than Alabama. Alabama can still run the football, and I actually think Alabama will still be a more effective rushing team than Florida State. I'm just saying from what you want to do offensively, that plays into Florida State's favor a little bit. You talk about Alabama's top two position groups: offense, wide receiver; defense, secondary. If it's raining, you can kind of take those advantages out a little bit. Granted, Alabama's got receivers that can create yardage after the catch. So as far as, getting the football out of Ty Simpson's hands on some short, quick passes and allowing them to make some plays, inching your way down the field, I think Alabama will still be able to move the football through the air as long as you're not dealing with a monsoon or, some crazy high winds or something like that. But when you start talking about starting running back, a guy who is in the competition to start at right guard, who's a much better run blocker than he is a pass protector, and you're talking about your best run defending defensive lineman, probably your best run defender, period, on defense. These are three positions where it's like, man, those three injuries kind of play into Alabama not being as effective running the football. Still think they'll be very effective, but then also not being able to stop the run as well. And it's not really about Jeremiah Beeman being the starter, I think he's going to be effective. It's more about the rotation and who is behind Jeremiah Beaman. Jeremiah Beaman was backing up Tim Keenan. So even when you had to go to that second guy, you had a rotation and you could still get high quality play.
Right.
I don't know exactly how they're going to tackle behind Jeremiah Beaman. If they're doing the thing where you're mugging the linebackers on early downs like they did against Michigan, and they're fanning out their defensive line, and they got 2-3 techs rather than a 0 or a 1 tech with the nose, you can put a lot of different players over a guard. I mean, you can play one of your bandits over a guard. You can play Edric Hill opposite James Smith over a guard. Like, you can do a lot of different things. But for those instances where they're going with the 3-man fronts with the 0 technique nose, or they're shading him on one side of the center or the other, you need to have a bigger body guy who can hold up at the point of attack. Think Jeremiah Beaman can do that. But who else are you going to include? And that's why I say I think it's possible you could see a little bit more of London Simmons, the true freshman, in those instances than maybe you would have otherwise. But, yeah, it's definitely a question mark. Once again, has it reached concern level? It's teetering for me. But it's more of just an unknown and trying to figure out how it's going to look.
Do we know what the extent of Tim Keenan's injury is?
Well, according to reports, I think Brett McMurphy with On 3, he followed up the news from Kalen DeBoer that it's an ankle injury for Tim Keenan, and he's reporting that he's going to do the tightrope surgery.
Okay.
Going to be out multiple games. A lot of people will say, oh, okay, so it's the Tua injury. Well, I will say, when you're carrying 320 plus pounds on that ankle relative to 200 pounds like Tua Tagovailoa,
right,
might be a little bit more difficult to come back from it, or, he might not come back as quickly. Not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that's something that you got to weigh, or something that might impact things to make it linger or last a little bit longer. We just don't know. That has not been confirmed by Alabama. At least I don't think that it has. So, maybe that report is incorrect, but that's at least what's being reported by the national media.
Very interesting. Well, it's not just Bama with guys out, with Proctor on the O-line, and then obviously Keenan on the D-line, and Jam Miller. Florida State's going to be without LaWayne McCoy, wide receiver, defensive tackle Kevin Wynn. Squirrel White has been banged up, but I guess he's still going to play. So, that's just the way that this stuff goes. I mean, if you're physical in practice, some guys get hurt. I can remember the Saban era where, Bama would lose guys and still figure out a way to win. I just worry about, I'm still trying to kind of put my finger on what Coach DeBoer is like when there's adversity. I mean, the bowl game last year rained, looked like we never saw water in our lives. Didn't bother Michigan at all. We couldn't catch a snap, and it was hard to watch, all the fumbles and everything else. Hopefully they got that fixed, and maybe having Ty Simpson back there will help Alabama in that capacity. But it's like they always say, it's raining for both teams, but it does help the underdog. And I saw what Jimmy was saying yesterday, and I've always felt the same way too. You change your game plan a little bit in the rain, would it negate Bama's explosive wide receivers? I mean, are you afraid to throw the ball in the rain? It's slippery, whatever. So, a lot of things can go wrong when you throw the football. You want to establish the run, and you don't have your starting running back on top of that. So it gets pretty interesting. I'm still excited about this game. And before we kind of talk Alabama and Florida State, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Residence Inn by Marriott Ocean City, back-to-back coastal style hotel of the year. Our guy Keith's got you covered over there. Beautiful sunsets, crab cakes the right way. Anything crab they make over there, and they make it well. Crab cakes, crab soup, crab imperial, but a lot of seafood, music fests, awesome boardwalk, secrets bar. You guys need a getaway. Residence Inn by Marriott Ocean City, the place to check out, and tell Keith that we sent you. So Florida State and Alabama, we don't know a lot about this Florida State team, right? New coordinators. They got Gus Malzahn. They got a new quarterback. They got 4 new offensive linemen. Will those guys gel together? The weather, hostile environment. There's a lot of reasons why you feel like you almost, and every time I feel like this, it turns out the exact opposite. But like you would take the home dog here because a lot of things are kind of going Florida State's way, it feels like, or am I just overreacting on this?
I'm typically the optimist, but at the same time, I can understand anybody's concern because when you start talking about weather, it makes a game more unpredictable, and the weather could be fine throughout, but it's just a factor that we don't really know definitively one way or another. Is it going to rain? How bad is the rain going to be? How long is it going to last? Like, we don't know these things. We'll just have to wait and see. But if the weather is poor, that can be kind of an equalizer in some ways. The fact that there are so many transfers, my thought on it is that's going to take a while for these guys to gel. I mean, when you've got 4 out of 5 new offensive linemen, they were all playing in different places last year. You do have one, Adrian Medley, who was a starting guard for Gus Malzahn at UCF. So he's got some familiarity with the offensive coordinator. But like Micah Pettis, I mean, just kind of across the board, guys who have played multiple years at other places, a ton of experience, but not a lot of experience together. That's something that you got to figure out. You got, as I said yesterday, quarterback transfer, running back, 2 of your top 4 running backs. We don't know exactly what the pecking order will look like, but 2 of your top 4 running backs are transfers, and then you got a true freshman as that third guy. So 3 of your 4 running backs are no, excuse me. Actually, it's just 1 transfer, 1 true freshman, but still 2 of the 4 are new. All 3 of their starting receivers, 2 transfers, 1 true freshman, all new players. Tight end Randy Pittman from UCF did play under Gus Malzahn, but he's new to Florida State. 4 of your 5 offensive linemen. You start talking about defensive linemen, 2 of your 3 starters, multiple of your second level defenders, a couple of guys in the secondary. So it's just, it could end up working out where it's like, man, this team it came together really quickly, and that ended up being a problem for Alabama. But if history is any indication, it's going to take these guys some time. So I think that plays into Alabama's favor. A quarterback that has been in this system for multiple years, or excuse me, not in this system, but with this program, and Ty Simpson was with Kalen DeBoer last year. You talk about the running backs, they were around last year, which not Jam Miller. The experience is kind of lacking, but the receivers, your top 2 guys, Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Danny Lewis, and Josh Cuevas, they're both seeing elevated roles, but they were both part of things last year. 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen, even with Jaden Roberts out, started at least a couple of games for Alabama last year, played at bare minimum 290 plus snaps. So same thing on defense, just the continuity side of things. You would expect Alabama to be much further along, and kind of some of the problems that Alabama dealt with last year as far as the transition, new systems, all those things. Florida State's going through the same thing right now. With you got 2 new coordinators, and you've got a slew of new players on both sides of the football. We're us expecting that they're going to be very complex and be able to do everything Tony White wants to do defensively right here out of the gate. I just don't think that's realistic. Kane Womack dealt with it last year. So I still think that this favors Alabama overall, but there are some elements of this that give Florida State, at least it might give them a little bit of an advantage relative to Alabama, and you at least got to acknowledge those.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And that's why you got to go out there and play. Who's able to, execute the game plan, and I think that's where Alabama's biggest advantage is fact that, you're not just plugging in a bunch of guys. I mean, there's going to be some spots where, like you said, like some true freshmen might have to play on the defensive line, but on the offensive side of the ball, I feel pretty comfortable with Gino Vandermark in there, right? Or whoever. I mean, like the offensive line had pieces anyway. And then running back wise, we'll see. I mean, I just don't want guys fumbling. That's been something that we haven't seen a lot of since Nick Saban days. Say you didn't fumble. Bad condition. You want to lose games, just start fumbling the football, right? And that's the only thing I worry about when you have inexperienced running backs is putting the ball on the ground.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like we've had this topic multiple times. Who's going to step up at running back with Jam Miller out? But the reason I think it's worth talking about, everybody knows I've been a big Daniel Hill fan based off of what I heard back in the spring, based off of his own talent and just watching his skill set in high school and just envisioning how it could be used in Tuscaloosa, I've been a huge advocate for Daniel Hill. But what I will say is that I always acknowledge every element, and I feel like new information, and this isn't the first time that this has been brought up, or at least, because I've thought about talking about this before, but on Wednesday during the SEC coaches teleconference, Kalen DeBoer was asked how he feels about the running backs, including Daniel Hill. And this is what he said. He said, I think the thing with Jam is there's just more reps. There's more just experience that he brings to the table. And so there's just a higher level of trust and kind of understanding what it's going to look like on game day. And you don't have that as much with the rest of these guys. It doesn't mean that they're not doing some nice things on the practice field. But Daniel Hill in particular, you asked about him. He's more versatile considering he's over 240 pounds than I think a lot of people would think. He's very natural. I think he's got some quick feet in the hole, and he can also catch the ball out of the backfield. And so it's just playing with the consistency. He's pretty assignment sound, pretty good that way. It's just a matter of him being able to do it at a high level every single day. And again, we won't know that until we get into the season here, just like with the other guys. So this is something that I want to point out, and I probably should have the quote in front of me, but that, I know that Ryan Grubb, when he was asked about the running backs and there was the confusion, was he talking about Daniel Hill? Was he talking about Richard Young? When he said the name Daniel second, what he said about him was that he was starting to come on and kind of look like he did back in the spring. In the early goings of fall camp, he didn't look that way. And I don't think it was that he was banged up, at least nothing that I know of. That is I'm not saying it's a red flag, but I'm saying that could explain, because I think out of the guys who are left right now, who are in the conversation, which is going to be Richard Young, Daniel Hill, and Dre Washington, I still think Daniel Hill is easily the most talented and the most diverse that you have there. But if you're not getting what you need to out of him consistently, as far as the energy and I mean, from what I was hearing, this guy was running angry back in the spring. That's what got me so excited about him. I don't know this for certain, but if you're taking context clues from this, maybe you haven't been getting that level of consistency in the fall, and that is what has caused him kind of fall. I'm not saying he's fallen behind. I'm saying that as far as just where he was trending, that could be a potential reason why. Right. So, as I've said, I think you're going to see all three. I think they're all three have a chance to be effective. I couldn't tell you which one is going to be the most effective on Saturday. I have no idea. I think they all have a pretty equal chance, to be honest, despite pecking order might look a certain way. But as far as who's most efficient with their touches, it could go in a number of different directions. But this is a good group of running backs still, and I fully expect them to be effective on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm glad that Parker Brailsford is the center and one of the leaders on the team. Of all the spots, when you get into this, you want your team captain to be the center, right? And DeBoer talked about that on the Hey Coach show, right? How much he likes Parker Brailsford, how much the team likes and respects him. And when you get into these type of games, guys calling out plays and making sure that the snap gets there and calming the quarterback down, and and has experience. So that's definitely a plus for Alabama.
That's an excellent point. It's something that Jimmy brought up yesterday, and it's something that I think we should probably be talking about more. With having Geno Vandermark on the field alongside Parker Brailsford, you've got two center communicators. Geno has had to learn to be a very effective communicator because he plays center and plays center quite a bit, whether it be in practice, whether it be in certain games. And so he's had to adopt that mentality. You've got a new starter, the least experienced of the bunch, and Wilkin Formby at right tackle. Not only do you have Parker Brailsford, who's a couple of guys down from him, you got Geno Vandermark, two of the best communicators who are right there pretty much next to Wilkin. And so you would fully expect from a communication standpoint there to be effective communication running in that direction. To the left, you do have a new starter in Cam Dewberry, but he does have quite a bit of SEC experience. He's played in some hostile environments. He knows what it's supposed to look like. And you have a multi-year starter in Caden Proctor, who's now going into year 3 as a starter, who has first-round potential, maybe even top 10 potential. And so you would fully expect, whether it be, him playing between Parker Brailsford and Caden Proctor, there to be for there to be effective communication there as well. So in a hostile environment like you're going to see on Saturday, which obviously is one of the biggest advantages that Florida State has. That's just the way it is with home field advantage. You've got to be able to have effective communication. From everything that we've heard, the offensive line's been doing a pretty good job of that. And Ty Simpson, I think, has been a very good communicator throughout fall camp. But until he's in that situation, the crowd's going crazy, you won't know for sure what Ty Simpson's about when it comes to that. But I will say that it is pretty encouraging.
Yeah, well, it's I think you're exactly right. Like, this is one of those spots where you just hope that he's prepared, Ty Simpson, to lead this team, right? That he's mentally and emotionally ready to be the starting quarterback for Alabama at Florida State. Not let the moment get too big for him. He's got, he's going to have to rely on guys that aren't, not a starting running back. But at the same time, once you get out there and start playing, we'll see. I mean, he's got a ton of experience as a backup. So, good to see him get that chance as a starter.
One of the things, understand as a fan going in, try to understand what the game plan could be. I'll never forget how frustrated I was. It was the Iron Bowl. I think it was 2017, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2018. They had Marlon Davidson. What was the big defensive tackle's name? Plays for the Carolina Panthers now. Devin. Don't remember his name. Either way, Derek Brown. Sorry. They had a great defensive line, and they were big and powerful. Even like a guy like Marlon Davidson, he gets to the NFL and he switches to defensive tackle. He was playing in for them. So Alabama's game plan going in was, we're going to wear these guys out. We're going to do a lot of east-west, snap it, get it out to the perimeter, make that defensive line run east and west a bunch, try to wear them down a little bit. Would have been very effective, but Auburn's offense ended up having enough success and having some long sustaining drives to give those guys a break, where Alabama kind of had them on the ropes. Didn't end up working out that way. But early in the game, Gary Danielson's watching this and he's like, oh, they don't trust, I think it was Mac Jones. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's like, they don't trust Mac Jones to do this or do that. They're doing a lot of quick passing, and they're not. At some point they're going to have to start throwing the football down the field. And I remember watching, being like, you don't even know what's going on. Like, right. You don't even know the whole point of the game. So my point in saying that is, A, the commentators don't always know, first of all, but second of all, if you're watching some of these things, if you see that, they might be trying. Darrell Jackson, he's 340 pounds. Might try to do some things, get him running, because. You talked about Kevin Wynn, their backup nose tackle, who's their other 330-plus pound, the only other 330-plus pound guy they have on the roster. The other biggest guy is 303 pounds on their defensive line. But if you can get Darrell Jackson worn down doing some things, you can start having some success with a worn down Jackson in the second half that maybe you wouldn't have had he been, in better shape and been able to sustain a little bit better. So it's things like that you need to be thinking about. But also when it comes to Ty Simpson, I do think, could I see them taking some risk? Yes. But at the same time, you're in a hostile environment. If Ty Simpson makes a mistake early on a low percentage throw or something like that, and you get that crowd really fired up and into it, you get Ty Simpson maybe into his head a little bit before he can get some success, it can get away from you. So I do think that you're probably going to see them take a safer approach. You got guys who can make plays after the catch, run the football, get in favorable second down and third down situations, get the football out of Ty Simpson's hands quickly, and let some of your playmakers make plays after the catch. If one of them can break it, turn a quick pass into a 70-yard touchdown, Ty Simpson starts feeling a little bit more comfortable. And then you can start doing some more of this stuff that you're going to want to do, pushing the football downfield. We know they have a lot of vertical concepts in their offense. That's how I would approach it. I understand, hey, if we can get him to get a quick strike downfield, this defense is susceptible to that. You can really get him fired up and going. I could see the motivation to try to do that, but the risk versus the reward, I would personally play a little bit safer, but you can do some things to get him going early.
Guys, Clint and I are going to be on the Bama Tailgate show tomorrow. Jay Coker will be with me at Bowden's tomorrow from 1 to 3. We're going to record the Tailgate show. We're actually going to play it on here, so you can watch it on here, or you might be able to listen to it on radio. Game day, we come on 106.9, Classic Rock. That's Bama's flagship station, 5 hours before every game. But if you're going to Tallahassee, you're going to be there Saturday. Come by Bowden's and see, or be there Friday. Come by Bowden's and see us record the show. And
Mick, can I say something real quick?
yeah, the Coker Bowl.
First of all, yes, the Coker Bowl. Speaking of Coker, that boy can act, man. He was phenomenal in that commercial. I get for anybody that watched yesterday.
I'll play it now.
Yeah, I would like for you to, because I mean, I would have never thought in a million years he would be that. I know I wouldn't be that comfortable doing it. He looked like he was right in his element, man. When I saw that commercial yesterday, which by the way was an accident. I clicked the wrong thing in Jimmy and I's show, and next thing I know, I'm seeing a commercial I'd never seen before, and Coker's over here like a rock star. So that was pretty cool to see, man. I was proud of him. Hey, you were a rock star too, by the way. I noticed you. Yeah, I noticed you in there.
That's a little cameo. Yeah, guys, we'll be at Bowden's. The next week we'll be doing the show at Innisfree from 1 to 3 on Friday. So actually be 2 to 4 Eastern time at Bowden's tomorrow because of the time change. But I appreciate it. Yeah, Coker's awesome, man. He's killing it. You guys can go to Pearl River Resort. Hit the sports book, hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. It's an easy drive. And then you get there, it's like, hey, there's the sports book. You can bet on anything, right? You want to bet on Bama, you want to bet on some of the other games going on, NFL. Baseball, hockey, international games. They got 20 big screen TVs. Tell them what you want on. I watched the Cubs play over there when we were there a couple weeks ago, last week. It was great. It's like a day game. I got the Cubs on the big screen, like listening to the sound. And obviously since I work in baseball, I'm not betting, but it was fun to, just kind of sit there and watch the game. It's just a cool hangout. That's at the Golden Moon Casino, right? Which is at Pearl River Resort. And, but they got table games and slots, Silver Star. There's a bridge. You can go from one to the other. And then Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, Philip M. Steakhouse. Got 2 really great concerts coming up. Aaron Lewis going to be there. And then Tracy Lawrence. So 2 guys. Actually, I didn't realize I knew Aaron Lewis. And I play the commercial. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know this guy. I know him well. I just didn't realize that's who it was. But anyway, a lot of you guys are going to want to check that out. So also download what we're doing here. If you can't get to the YouTube channel, download our stuff at the Cover Crimson Podcast Network. And, and you can take advantage of this there as well. Right. And we're doing better on the downloads because of you guys. We want to thank you. If you're not part of that yet, please do. And then whether it's us 2 or Elephant in the Room with Coker or you and Jimmy or whatever show we throw out there, you'll get that on the Cover Crimson Podcast Network. So any final thoughts, Clint?
No, just appreciate everybody being here. Obviously we're getting ready to watch Alabama for the first time in 2025. Going to get to see kind of, at least in many ways, what this team's about. I can't wait. And come this weekend, we'll actually be getting to do some reacting rather than predicting. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's all enjoy Jake Coker's acting. You ready?
I may not suit up on Saturdays anymore, but I'm still in the game. In here, I call the plays, make adjustments, and lay it on the line. Want to feel that fire, that rush? Then you've got to get in the game. I used to say it in the tunnel, and I still say it now. Let's roll.